Hello and welcome to this Bits Box unboxing video. Today we're looking at Halo Fleet Battles, the new releases of the medium ships, and we're looking at the RCS Armoured Cruiser for the Covenant. So, let's crack her open. Right, so, very familiar contents. We've got, we've got the usual formation bases. We've got the medium sprue minus CCS. So we've got another 6 corvettes on this one. Nice 2-part assembly, so nice and easy to deal with. And again, veteran coffee players are probably going to be drowning in corvettes right now. We've got a pack here which has little detail bits. We'll have a look at them in a little more detail alongside the other models, and the construction manual and presumably the stat sheets and such in there, so we'll put that to one side. So, the RCS themselves wrapped up in bubble wrap. Try and gently excavate these. Oh, that's interesting. So, as you can see here, they appear to be effectively one-piece models aside from the nose bit. Let's have a look at that little box of detail pieces. Struggle with a Ziploc bag. Okay, so so you get 2 halves there for the teeth, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Looks like the 2 parts glued together like that. You clean them up, stick them in there, and that gives you the distinctive frills, or I'm not really sure how to describe it, but you've seen it on the CCS, the sort of teeth hanging from front, tusks I suppose, actually that'd be a good word, tusks. And then you've got the ones for the RCS. Yep, so there's a nice little caveat there, and a nice little bit there where you can glue them in. So nice easy assembly. It's quite nice actually, these are all one piece, and the detail on them is, I'll see if I can catch it in the light. It's always difficult to tell when we're filming on our camera if things are showing up well, because the small LED screen doesn't do the camera justice often. But yeah, looking at the model, it's very nice and detailed. I'll just grab a CCS for comparison. So first off, actually, the CCS is a little bit smaller. Just a little. Try and hold these at a straight angle. So, yeah. Just a touch, really. The RCS beats it out a little bit on general shape. But in terms of detail, a lot of people were, because the original ship's being released in plastic, then we were getting ships in resin. A lot of people were doubtful of whether the quality of detail on the ships would carry across, but I'd say it's actually been superseded. When you look at what is a nice model, do not get me wrong, but relatively flat. And to be fair, that is partially down to the CCS's design. But then we've got the RCS, which is just so much more detailed. There's all these little panel lines here, they're lovely. All the little intricate details. This little bit here is much cooler. I'm actually really looking forward to painting these already. The grav lift there and all other bits and pieces. Very nice models. So yeah, slightly larger than the CCS, and obviously still very much dwarfed by an ORS. So we'll have a look at the rules. I'll just get these girls off to one side, pop them down there, and the detail bits I just gently nudge off screen. So, we'll open up the pack and have a look. So, assault carrier assembly instructions, we'll just flip that over. So there's your RCS. So again, yep, the 2 halves of your tusks, glue them together and shove them in its nose. And then your little, I guess, sideburns, if you want to call them that, frills, those go into the side. So yeah, pretty much as expected. One of the nice things about this line has been the relatively simple model construction. I'll start with this. So, looking at the rules for it, we get a, there it is there, the standard RCS Cruiser, the supported RCS Cruiser, reinforced, and finally the penitent paired cruisers. So, again, we'll have the PDF Spartan released linked on our description, so that you can look at these in a bit more detail in case the camera work isn't that great. I do apologise for my shoddy camera work. Now, RCS Cruiser, how does it compare to a CCS? Because quite clearly it's sort of sliding into the same role. It differs in quite a few important ways, despite how similar they look. For one, it is a whole 30 points cheaper. This is a nice, cheap unit for the Covenant to use, which is exactly what the Covenant use, and it's combined with another very important thing, build rating 2. What this means, compared to the build rating 3 of the CCS, is that you can take 2 of these and your 2 support elements. So whereas the CCS at build rating 3, if you took 3 of them, that would max out your build rating capacity of 6 for a battle group, and so you can't take the mandatory support element to make it a legal battle group. So you could only have 1 CCS with a bunch of corvettes around it. This, you could have 2 of them. You could even have 1 of these and a CCS, or 1 of these and its supported cousin, which is very, very handy. Very handy for Covenant. It also means you can do cheap battle groups. You can take 1 of these and a single base of line or oblique formation corvettes, and that's 160 points for a cheap gap filler, just for those last points you use. Now, how does it differ to the CCS in terms of actual stats? Security does seem to be a bit higher. Boarding craft and hangars about the same. It doesn't have carrier action, so if you're relying on your CCSs for carriers, if you're trying to run a wings list, and you don't have the CAS assault carrier, using these in complete replacement of your CCS can leave you very empty in the wings phase towards the mid-game. Its defense arrays are, well, not great. It's about equivalent to a base of corvettes in terms of shielding by the looks of it. Its movement values are the same, 7-inch with 3-inch glide, and its point defense just about comparable, if memory serves rightly. Yep. So it is an armoured cruiser, and that does reflect in the higher damage track overall, which does compensate for the lower defense array rating, and it is cheaper. It is easier to put in a battle group, so it seems very good for its points cost. You've got to consider this is more of an equivalent to the Marathon Cruiser than it is to the CCS, given its build rating, relatively cheap cost, and overall place in the Covenant hierarchy. Now, the weaponry were 2 less on the Plasma Lance and 1 less on the Plasma Cannon dice, which is a pretty fair concession to make. Again, consider you can have 2 of these in the battle group, 240 points for the 2 cruisers, plus throw in a base of corvettes there, and was it 280 points? I can put out 20 Plasma Lance dice at long range. Now granted, a bunch of Marathons or a Punic show up to its neighbourhood and it's not going to stand up very well, but 20 dice at range 32 inches, even without the even with the long range debuff for Plasma, still very strong. Then we go to the Armoured Cruiser, so we get +1 defense arrays, +1 point defense, security detail, and +1 in the last damage track. We gain an extra dice of Plasma Cannon and 5 Plasma Torpedo dice, so pretty standard. It's a nice little upgrade for 20 points, so it's worth considering. You could, for example, instead of running 2 of these and 2 bases of corvettes, you could have 1 of these upgraded to be a little bit tougher, and have a single base of corvettes and an RCS here. So yep, other than that, it's a pretty simple upgrade to go supported, and then reinforced, another 20 points, another defense array, another point defense, another build rating as well, another damage on its final track, so it's now up to damage 6 in its last track, and I don't think it gains security detail actually. Oh no, nope, not getting security detail, and then another dice of Plasma Cannon and 2 of Torpedo. So it puts out a decent amount of firepower, and again, as it's build rating 4, you could have this and 2 bases of corvettes to support it, which is a nice little unit actually. 240 points. It'd put out 10 plasma lance, 16 or 18 plasma cannon dice, depending on which kind of corvette you take, and 15 or 13 plasma torpedo dice, again, depending on which corvette you take. So that'd be a pretty decent little unit. And like I said, the RCS is mainly about opening up options for the Covenant fleet, and definitely improves the list building for Covenant. Gets around the limitation of only having build rating 3 capital elements they had before. So we then move on to the Penitent battle group of paired cruisers. Now this is the mirror image of the Penitent battle group of paired CCSs, which is a favourite of mine because it is the single most expensive, most durable, most shooty, most everything in the game. Well, at least until the massive ships came along. But damage track of 1297, that's the first time we've seen 12 on a damage track, if I'm right. And I think I am, though I can't be certain. So yeah, 12 on the damage track. We've got 4 hangars, 5 boarding craft, and 8 security details, so it can charge up. You could fill that with zealots as well and throw them out. Board something nasty, make it feel pretty bad for itself. You put out 16 dice of plasma lance, which for 220 points, that's the cost of a supported ORS. That's pretty strong. And 15 plasma cannon array dice isn't bad either. On top of that, 5 defense arrays and 7-point defense. It's not quite as ludicrous as the paired CCS, which I remember rightly got the 8 defense arrays, but that's pretty strong. That is a relatively cheap line breaker, or just general fire magnet. If it gets close with 16 plasma lance dice, it'll still do damage, and it is durable. I mean, people might end up underestimating how much that damage track 12 stacks of defense array 5 to create some serious problems for enemy players. The only problem, and this has been brought up, and Spartan are apparently going to work on an FAQ for it, is its build rating 6, right there, build rating 6. Now why is that a problem? Well, you cannot legally run a battle group without 1 capital choice and 1 support choice. This is a capital, so it would need a support choice of a base of corvettes to be legal for a standard battle group, but at build rating 6, you can only build standard battle groups up to build rating 6, so this is maxed out. Now this is the same as the paired marathons, which are build rating 6 but have a special battle group you can take them in as a special choice. But there is no special battle groups in this kit. We've got bases and tokens here. Spartan are apparently working on Narata, and rumour is it will basically be the same as the one for the CCS. Now whether that means you get the special or the Penitent gets for the CCSs, where you can re-roll a plasma cannon dice for each zealot on board, then that would be very strong. I personally just fill this wing full of zealots, toss out plasma cannon dice for days, and charge up the board. Board something scary, shoot something else scary, be a general nuisance and start ripping apart some UNSC. But until then, though, if you're playing in any sort of friendly atmosphere, I'm pretty sure your opponent will allow you to run this. Technically, though, it is an illegal unit. But hopefully, it'll be a couple of days before we get this out, and hopefully Spartan will have resolved this and we'll be worrying about a problem that doesn't exist by the time this goes onto YouTube. So, that's the rules for the RCS, and again, we'll have them linked in the description. So we'll stick them to one side. And we'll just have a quick look through the extras. So, we get 2 supported RCS bases, or inserts rather, 2 unsupported, and 1 reinforced and 1 paired. That's quite nice actually. When I first bought the core set, I ended up with 4 paired CCS templates, and you can only legally run one. So it ended up being a waste of 3 sheets of card. But yep, there's one there. And then we've got the tokens. So yet more Seraphs and Tarasks and boarding parties and zealots and everything else. pretty standard. If you bought anything for this game, you've already got those in abundance. But yeah, overall I'm very pleased with these, both in terms of the model. That detail is exquisite. The role it plays in the Covenant, I don't feel it's overpowered. I feel it is actually incredibly fragile despite being armoured due to that lack of reliable defence arrays, only being defence array 2. But it really does open up avenues that Covenant didn't have before in terms of cheap battle groups. It'll be quite interesting to see where the UNSC are built around, or typically built around, building up Mac rating 6 battle groups that are quite big and invested in points in single battle groups, and drop it on camera. It'll be quite interesting to see if Covenant players end up running multiple small units of ships. If we end up with this ship and a Corvette being 160 points and just spanned with an ORS or 2, maybe the Harbinger battle group with 2 ORSs, maybe a pair of these as well for a tougher line breaker. It's definitely opening up list opportunities, and with the CPV Destroyer on the horizon coming out at the end of this month, it's actually a good time to be playing this game, I think. So that was the RCS Armoured Cruiser, which is one of the 2 ships we're looking at released this month. The other ship, which through annotation YouTube wizardry, is the Orion Assault Carrier. So if you click here, it should hopefully link you to it. And thank you for watching, and we'll bring you more unboxing videos as more stuff releases.